Split fiction, man. I've been a fan of the studio for a while now. I played their game, but that first game I played was a ways out. I played that multiple times with multiple different people because the experience is going to be different. Then It Takes Two came out, shocked the world, one game of the year. So when Joseph popped up there and he was like, our next game, Split Fiction, I had to participate. So first off, shout out to EA and to Hazelight Studios for sending your boy a review code. You know, it took me about 15 hours to beat this game. One thing I want to say is bravo. That's all I'm going to say when it comes to that. You're kind of spoiling a little bit about what my impressions of this game are. So let's get into it, man. This is a co-op experience. You guys know how co-op experiences generally work. But Joseph's games, you know, the games that his studio makes, it's not exactly the same thing. Joseph is a very key person on just having fun. Look, does Split Fiction look amazing? Sometimes it looks really good depending on the art style it is. There's a lot of factors that goes into this particular game with Split Fiction. And essentially what's going on here is you are two writers that have went into this machine and you're thinking that it's, you know, it's a paid gig. Both characters have their own reasons for doing stuff. What I really enjoy about the story is this is the first time Joseph actually had some form of a game where the characters are just straight strangers. They don't know anything about each other. You know, I guess Ways Out was a little bit of the same way. But what I will say when it comes to this particular game is the way they did it was very good because I was growing with the two characters. One writes sci-fi. One writes fantasy. There are side stories. I do want to point that out. When you're going through this game, you will find these like white orbs throughout the game. And what those essentially are is you go up to them, you press a button, and you're able to, you know, do these side missions, these side stories that these characters have written because the machine that they were put into, they both accidentally went into the same one and they found out that, you know, they're essentially trying to take everyone's ideals. That's all I'm going to get to when it comes to the story. Look, it's a story. I don't know if this was like anything like extravagant. This is probably the weakest part of the game. And it's not even a weak part. It's just one of those things where it depends on what you guys want. I particularly enjoyed the story. I felt like they did everything they needed to do. That's just my opinion. I don't expect a story to grab me every time. You know, I particularly want a well-told story that I can, you know, vibe with, sometimes personalize, but it's not essentially something that I need like every single time. Graphics, going from sci-fi, going from fantasy, the art styles is going to change. What you do is going to change, and we'll get to that here in gameplay. Game looks great. Now, obviously, if you're like a graphics person, the art itself might turn you away, and to a point, I don't agree with that. I feel like a game is a good game regardless what its art style is. If you can really vibe with it, that's all that matters. But I can understand there are a lot of people that don't like playing those type of games. I would actually recommend, even if you don't like these type of games, to still try it because you only got to buy one copy, and it's multi-platform crossplay. So essentially, you could buy a PlayStation 5 version, and you can play with people on the other platforms, and they don't have to buy it. That's the biggest thing that Joseph did that changed the game because no one's doing that in this industry. So, for instance, it's launched. If you got someone on another platform, the amount of awareness that he's going to have just from that single decision is going to be extravagant because no longer do you need like an Xbox Series X version. All you have to do is just buy a version. And then you can hit up your friend, yo, play it with me, man. I'll send you over. You'll be able to download the game, and we can kick it together. Joseph knows that the only way to make this game truly stand out is letting the person that actually bought it play it with anyone he wants to. Because, look, there's co-op games in the past that's been fun. But I will say, Hazelight Studios, in terms of gameplay, there is zero competition. There is no one like Joseph Studio making these co-op experience games like this. Not to this degree, not to this level. The amount of gameplay changes that you do is ridiculous. The boss fights are so well done. There's some boss fights towards the end of the game that my mind was blown. I'm like, it's still going? It's epic. This game essentially, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, from switching to sci-fi to fantasy. Now, I will say, I feel like the sci-fi levels resonate with me more, which is interesting because normally I am more into fantasy than sci-fi. But I enjoy both. Definitely enjoy both. Now, in terms of the side missions, you know, they had a couple of those, like collecting cats. You know, there was one where you had to become a hot dog, essentially. I didn't like those too much, and I do feel that, you know, maybe don't go to those side missions if you don't enjoy the first couple. I do feel like you should at least try them. And, you know, if you get to the point where you're just wanting to stick to the main story, I understand that. But those are still unique experiences. They're pretty much, you know, mini stories that they've written in the past that's in there. And I gotta give it to them, man. I'm rarely going to come on here and pretty much essentially tell you that there is no issues with this game. There are a little bit. I do feel like if you have motion sickness, some of the sci-fi levels will get to you a little bit. Not much. It only happened like one particular level for this game. But bravo, man. You know, I've never played games with a co-op experience that changed things up more than I played with this dude. This dude, he knows what he's doing. He is single-handedly showing the industry that it's not the industry that's being stale. It's the publishers that's not giving the creative freedom to the developers to make stuff that they want. And shout out to EA for funding this dude. You know, he essentially could have another Game of the Year on his hands. Like, he really could. He could have another Game of the Year on his hands. Now, do I think he's going to get Game of the Year? It just depends on what comes out. GTA might come out. That might knock him off its pace. But to me, right now, March the 6th, this is my Game of the Year. And obviously, we only 3 months in. So I'm not going to sit here, go too much into it. But right now, it's the best game I've played. Now, obviously, we got a lot of games coming out. But I've played some good games this year already. I have. I played games I really, really enjoyed. In Split Fiction, from a co-op experience to, you know, being able to experience these worlds, I really like the way that they did it because they casualized the game clearly, but they made it accessible where things are changing so much. It's not going to matter if they casualized it because what you're doing now is not what you're going to do in the next level. And then sometimes they'll take mechanics from previous levels, but they'll enhance them and make them different. And that's why I got to get off to him because he has learned and mastered the art of changing up mechanics in one game. Because most of the time, you know, you get an action adventure game. You get this game, you get that game. I couldn't tell you what genre this game is in technically. Now, obviously, they probably have one specific genre it's in that is on like Steam and Xbox and PlayStation. But don't get it twisted. You are doing everything in this game. There is not one thing in this game that you're not really doing. You're racing, you're jumping, you're, you know, platforming, you're escaping. It turns into a shoot 'em up sometimes. A shoot 'em up, a stick shooter. Like I almost spoiled something. I'm not going to do that. This game is worth your money. Every bit worth your money. And even if you don't like these type of games, this is a great game to play with your girlfriend. It's a great game to play with your wife. This is a good game to get someone into gaming. And that's the biggest thing I got to give to Joseph. Joseph has found a way to get people into games, but also let hardcore people such as myself enjoy the experience. Because there wasn't one time in this game, the entire game, there wasn't one time I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed this game from beginning to end. Now, obviously, like I said, some of the side stories that definitely missed me a little bit, but those are optional. Story, it is what it is. Take it, leave it. Doesn't really matter in that terms of things. I do think it's serviceable. Do I think it's like a fantastic story? No. But what I will say is the main characters, when you go into their motives of why they do stuff, it really matters. And that's what the story did really well, is it told a story of two people that are doing this thing together, and they have to learn how to interact with each other. And that's what I got to get of Joseph. I can't speak much more positive than I can about this game because it's a phenomenal game. Split Fiction by Hazelight and published by EA is worth every penny that you give them. And you should buy it just to try to reward developers for thinking outside the box and reward publishers such as EA that is giving people the opportunity and the ability to try new things. Is it going to work every time? No. Is EA been the best person to do this stuff? No. But as of right now, they're doing a really good job. And I got a shout out to them. But that's it for the video, man. Shout out to you guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button. You can always sub to the channel. We make weekly news on here. We review games. We do everything, man. I appreciate everyone coming through. And that was my review on Split Fiction for the Xbox Series X. Have a good one. It's good, man. I'm going to say it's good. It's really good.